I can't even pronounce this dude's name. Different shark behaviors, how you'd approach them. Not really for drawing. I'm gonna try draw them. Got my mad professor haircut cranking, so I don't know if he means by how to approach sharks or how to approach dealing with sharks. And then Grace asked more shark safety awareness and tactics, and I'm guessing there's a tactics, you know, to deal with them, being around them. This is all going to be at the top of my head, so let's start with I guess factors, right? So behavior, did I spell behavior? No, behave, I don't know, pretend that's behavior. Water temp, these all link in a little bit. Current/tide is a big factor. Sometimes there's some spots that work like clockwork, where as soon as the current dies, the sharks will completely leave along with the fish, and you can't even get them to come back. The prey, so that could be on the end of the spear, or that could be just the general area. Oh, the amount, how many sharks there are, because that influences the behavior a lot. What normally happens to me is I get in the water and I see a shark within 10 minutes. That's pretty common for me because of the way that I hunt, where I put myself. I go and I find the pressure points, I find the areas where there's a lot of fish and things like that. Do drops down those areas, and I see them all the time. If someone says to me, I've never seen a shark spearfishing, or I don't see sharks, that just blows my mind, because I see them every dive, no matter what, almost moving around through the areas that I generally find are fishy. It's a sign of the zone, you know what I mean? Water surface, and then we have a bit of a drop off or whatever, and then the bottom with the kelp and stuff like that. It's all kelp, we'll pretend that's kelp. And then you have a shark, a bronzy. Let me try to draw a bronzy. One thing I'm going to say is the amount of people that are misidentifying sharks, I'm finding absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm not having a go at anyone, but I'm just finding it quite crazy. Like in New Zealand, it's 99% bronzies. A lot of people are like asking, what is that shark? What is that shark? And I guess they could be from overseas, or like, is that just a standard bronzy? They're always bronzies. Bronzies, for one thing with a bronzy is that they have a very defining feature of a bronzy. A bronze whaler has a line, a muscle line that runs down here. It's like a deep muscle groove. So yeah, anyway, you got that, you got a fin there, sort of pointed face. This is me. I'm not going to put much effort into me. With my fins. I won't draw my spear gun because I lost it. This animal could be, I guess, could be separated into two different animals. One that's in a state of behavioral change, or like hyped up, or more alert, or competitive, or whatever, or a bronze whaler that is just cruising along the bottom. When I get in and I see a bronzy cruising along the bottom like that, I don't even really give it a second look. Quite often you'll have all the little bait flickers off the side of it. If it's out of viz and you see a whole bunch of flickering all down like that, it's almost certainly a shark. That's also what a lot of people don't see as well, is that, like, I swim around a lot and I go, there's a bronzy there, there's a bronzy there. People aren't seeing it because I'm only seeing a whole series of flickers. Not even a shadow, not even anything. They blend into the bottom very, very well. It does take good eyes to see them. So if I see a shark like that, I don't even think twice. I'm like, whatever, fuck, doesn't matter. Once they move up into the water column, so once they're up and they're hanging around mid-water, that means that they are slightly elevated. There's a bit of a change. Perhaps you've shot a fish and they're up. Perhaps it's really hot water that ties into it. Hot water can help their state elevate, and that's sort of a commitment to feeding. That can be affected by a whole bunch of different things. How many sharks, because they compete with each other. More sharks are, the more likely they are to get racked up, because they have to be super, super competitive to win out on the food. The more current and tide can mean more sharks in that zone that you're working. So when there's a shark up in mid-water like that, that's when I go, oh yeah, I'm going to look at that and just pay a little bit of attention to it. You have to have a bit of action to sort of get them to piss off, or decide what you're going to be shooting around them. If you're going to start shooting kingfish around sharks like that, you're going to get that kind of behavior. You're going to get them all coming, and that's when you're going to have a guard to land your fish. There's a long learning game, and also I think it takes a bit of natural knowledge about animals as well and how they behave. And one thing I'd like to put out there is I'd never expect not to get bitten. If I got bitten and people were like, oh fuck, I told you, whatever, of course I could get bitten. I'm hanging out with sharks, like, you know, it's a fucking wild animal. Like if I was hanging out with dogs, wolves, anything that's a carnivore, but this is the game that we play, and this is how I get my food. So knowledge is really good, but at the end of the day, these are totally wild animals. So I guess when someone says tactics, it really depends. Like if you're not comfortable, you swim to the boat and you get out. If you want to hang out with them when they're quite heightened in that sort of state, don't shoot fish around them, but just hang out with them. You can learn, pull your gun right back. Like people that have their guns like way out like that with bronzes and that, you don't need to do that. You can put it right in, plus you're going to have more power to jab them if they come close to you. The only time that they're really going to get really close is when that water temp's really high, and you know, especially if there's fish being shot around them, or you get one animal that's quite territorial and he's been competing a lot and losing out. And the reason I say he is because the total majority of bronzies that I swim with are male. If you want to film them, what you need to do is it works a little bit like a kingfish. You have to do your dive as the shark's coming under at a very good time, get into the kelp and then see if it will spin and come and have a look at you. Quite often they'll turn and come back. If you do it really, really well and you time it perfectly, they'll come right back and then they'll freak out. And that's a little, I guess that's a tactic in filming and hanging out with them. The main thing to do is just spend a lot of time with them, totally get used to them. I'd like to know what people's concerns are and where they're actually finding issues. Yeah, I guess the main thing to know is that all of these factors are very, very important. If you start shooting kingfish around a lot of sharks, you're going to end up dealing with sharks that will come up to you, they will charge you. You know, especially if they all ball on a fish, and then the ones that lose out, they're already hyped. That's when you want to do nose jabs and things like that. A jab on the nose is very, very strong tactic against the shark because they have ampulive lorenzini on the nose, which are electroreceptors, and they're very, very sensitive. So if you stab them, they just absolutely fucking hate it. What I'd say to anyone is that you just have to have mental notes of how these animals act in all these different situations, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can say about them. It's not going to translate when you're in the ocean. You have to sort of go out there on your own and really figure it out. And I know it's like daunting at the start. It's like, holy shit, it's a shark. General advice would be just learning to gauge the animal, train your brain to just go, that's fine. For new spearos or people that are still concerned or unsure about how sharks act, I totally avoid shooting kingfish around them unless you have a confident buddy or two with you that can help with that. Also, I'd totally avoid doing it with a reel gun. I'd totally avoid using a reel gun if you're a new diver anyway. I just lost that gun. Of 16 years, it's the first gun I've lost, and the reason is, I believe, is after looking at the footage, that the shark actually swallowed the kingy while the line was through it, and because I got a full pass through. When the shark went and cut an angle, I thought I was getting my line back when it went slack, but the shark was actually going under me to open water. By then I was stripped and I was getting dragged, and the option of cutting was really not there. So that's a little bit sloppy, but that's just how it goes. The sharks know us now. I mean, it's like wildcats outside of butchery. They learn all that behaviour for sure. And very, very quickly, and especially from fishermen and boats too. So it's not something we can change. Like people are like, oh, you're out there training the sharks. Fuck, too late. Like we are in the water hunting with them. We are part of their environment now. So we just have to deal with it as it comes. You know, what I'd like from people is more specific questions about the animals, more specifics, and I can sort of dive into them. Especially because we're going to be doing like live Q&As as well. At like venues and things like that. I like to have questions with people like, what do I do in this situation? Like really, really like drill it down to what, well, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about getting bitten in this scenario. You know, really, really specific questions. That would be brilliant, because that really helps me to answer things.